Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Courtney, and every week I share one of these What's for Dinner videos just for a little bit of inspiration and motivation to get in the kitchen and try something new. If you're in a rut, check out one of these different recipes. Some of mine are family favorites, some of them are new ones that I found on Pinterest. Just all kinds of different things that I'm sharing with you guys, and hopefully you guys are enjoying them and trying them at home too. So this week I started off by making this seafood pasta. I guess it's like a seafood scampi kind of. I don't know. It's something I've made for quite some time, years now. I don't make it very often because seafood has gotten much more expensive, but when I make it, we all enjoy it, and it's really a pretty simple dish. Okay, so the first thing I have done is I have heated up a skillet on my stovetop. It's low to medium heat. To it, I added about 1 tablespoon of olive oil and about a tablespoon, maybe 2 of butter. And as that melted, I went ahead and tossed in some garlic cloves. I did about 2 cloves of garlic minced, but if you don't care for a strong garlic flavor, definitely go lighter on that, and that's fine. We're gonna let that just kind of saute on the stovetop for about 30 to 45 seconds. We don't want the garlic to burn. Of course, garlic that burns tastes awful, so we're gonna watch it. And after the 30 to 45 seconds where it is nice and fragrant, you smell it, we're gonna go ahead and pour in a cup of white wine. And then to that, I'm also gonna add, you would add chicken broth. I have this chicken base. I added a teaspoon of that. Then I'm gonna add a cup of water, and we're gonna let this simmer on the stovetop. Now, for those of you out there that don't like wine, don't cook with wine, not to worry. Instead of using wine, add in an extra cup of chicken broth and 2 to 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and this will still taste absolutely amazing. So this is gonna double as both the sauce for our pasta and the broth that we're going to cook our seafood in and make it nice and flavorful and delicious. This is not a thick sauce. It really just kind of, you pour it over the noodles and there's a little bit of flavor on there. It's nice and vibrant, but it's not saucy. As this simmers, it'll start to reduce, which is perfect, but it doesn't get very thick. It stays very liquidy. And I'm also going to go ahead and toss in some capers. Now, I really enjoy capers quite a bit. I probably added in a couple of tablespoons of them. If you don't care for them, you don't have to add them, or you could go lighter, or if you're like me, go nice and heavy. I love the, zippy tang of capers. I think they just bring so much flavor to the dish. And of course, as you can see in that other pot I have boiling on my stovetop, I did put in some pasta. I think I was using linguine noodles today. Anyway, back to our sauce. I tossed in about a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder and then a bunch of fresh black pepper. You can toss in as much or as little pepper as you like. We like a lot of pepper. We like that fresh cracked pepper flavor. So I tend to go pretty heavy with that, but you don't have to go that heavy if you don't want to, and that's fine. There's those capers I was talking about, and we'll just let this simmer, let all the flavors kind of come together. And once that has happened, we're going to start tossing in our seafood. I have shrimp and scallops today. That's what I got. That's what I chose. I love a good scallop. I mean, I absolutely love them. I don't buy them very often because I feel like they are very expensive, but man, that flavor is just really hard to beat. Anyway, my shrimp are peeled, deveined, and tail removed because I just don't like when the tails are still on your shrimp and you're trying to eat and like it's in a sauce or something and you're having to hold the tail with your fingers and get them dirty. That's just not how I roll. So I go ahead and take the tails off of all my shrimp. If you want to leave yours on, that is more than fine. It's just a personal preference. But we're just going to let this kind of simmer and saute in that broth until our seafood is cooked through. My shrimp were on the large side, so this did take a little bit longer than usual. So just really watch because you don't want to overcook the shrimp. Then I just tossed it all together and served it with some garlic knots on the side. It was so delicious. It's nice to treat yourself to seafood once in a while. It really was fantastic. Okay guys, so for this next meal, it was definitely a cheater meal for me. I had purchased a pre-made gumbo base at H-E-B. Actually, I think I got it for free with something else that I bought. But I just poured that into my sauce, or not my saucepan, into my stock pot and added in some shredded chicken and some chopped sausage. And I'm just going to let that simmer on the stovetop until I'm ready to eat. It is that easy. There was nothing to it. The base had like a roux and some mashed up okra in it. It was really good. Down below though, I will link a recipe. I will find one that's similar to my easy gumbo. I do make gumbo sometimes, and I have an easy method that I've been using for years, one that I just kind of made up in my head according to what I saw people do on TV. And I will find something similar and link it below so you guys can make gumbo at home quick and easy if you want to. All right, so here is what I considered the star of this meal. If you love Cheddar Bay Biscuits, you're going to love these. I adore Red Lobster's Cheddar Bay Biscuits, and I like their biscuit mix at the store, but it's kind of pricey. So this is my budget-friendly cheater way to make Cheddar Bay Biscuits with ingredients that most of us already have. So I started off with a biscuit mix. It was like 53 cents at the store, and I followed the package directions and added in, I think it was just milk. And then to it, I added half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of shredded cheddar cheese, and then about half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And I mixed everything together really, really well. And then I dropped it by spoonfuls onto my parchment-lined cookie sheet. And then we're going to cook it according to the package directions. Now, the magic in these biscuits is the butter that we're going to top them with. This is just the first part, and it's so easy. I mean, that's really all that's in that Cheddar Bay biscuit mix is cheddar cheese and garlic powder. And I'm going to tell you, using cheddar cheese that you have freshly shredded at home is so much better than the stuff in the box. All right, so for the buttery topping, and this is key for these biscuits, I melted a couple of tablespoons of butter. I added in some salt, some pepper, and about a half a teaspoon or so of Italian seasoning. Mix it all together. Now, you don't have to put in the pepper if you don't want to, but don't leave out the salt. I didn't put a ton in there, probably like a 1/4 teaspoon or less, but that salt is key. It really brings out so much amazing flavor in these biscuits, so you don't want to skip that step. All right, so over here, just a quick peek at that gumbo. It is just boiling away on the stove. You can see like there's a lot of liquid in there. It has all come together beautifully. It really was good. I mean, if you have a store that sells some kind of gumbo base, I recommend it. That was such a quick and easy shortcut. I pulled it out of the freezer and let it thaw on the counter, tossed it in here with some shredded chicken and sausage, and my soup was done. All right, our biscuits are out of the oven, and now we're just going to take that butter that we made and generously brush the top of the biscuits. You want to do this as soon as they come out of the oven when they're hot and fresh. That helps them just really absorb this delicious buttery goodness. And like I said, generously brush the top of the biscuits. It's going to look like a lot, but they're going to suck it all up and it's going to be beautiful. So there's my finished gumbo. I let it simmer and it got nice and dark, and I put some white rice in the center and served them with those beautiful Cheddar Bay biscuits. It was such a delicious meal. Okay, so on to this next meal. These potatoes might have been the highlight of our dinner this night. I made hamburger steaks to go with it, but these potatoes, y'all, oh my gosh. So I've made these a couple of times before, and I will continue making them because they're so good. You can do this with regular russets, but these baby potatoes are so much better. I know they cost more, but wow, they're good. So I started by slicing each one of these baby potatoes in half, not quartering or anything, just in half. And then I put them in this big bowl over here. And to that, I'm going to add in some olive oil to coat them nicely. And then we're going to season them with some smoked paprika is key, really. If you can't get smoked paprika, regular is fine, but smoked paprika is the best. And then I use that Kinder's buttery seasoning, which is like salt and butter flavor and garlic powder. And then I added in some pepper. And I went heavy with the pepper as I normally do because we really like fresh cracked pepper. And because potatoes can be so bland, I did toss in a little bit of extra salt, just, for safety, to make sure they had good flavor on them. Then I'm going to pour them out on my parchment lined cookie sheet because I like an easy cleanup. And I'm going to make sure that they are all cut side down. That's so important. So when we bake them, the cut side gets super brown and crispy and delicious. It is what makes these potatoes as good as they are. You've got to make sure each one of them, I know it's tedious, but make sure they are cut side down. Then we're going to pop them in a 400-degree oven, and I cooked these for about 45 minutes. So while those are in the oven, let's work on our hamburger steak. I like a good mushroom gravy. Typically, I'm the only person that eats mushrooms. However, after I made them last week, my oldest son tried one, and he is now a mushroom man. So he and I are the two that eat the mushrooms now, and that works out well for me. So I started off with a little bit of olive oil and a tablespoon of butter in my skillet. I like to do that just so that the olive oil helps keep the butter from burning. Nobody likes burned butter. I'm going to let that go ahead and melt, and this is going to be what we're cooking our mushrooms in. So I have my nice clean mushrooms there, and I toss them in the skillet, and we're going to saute them. We don't want to just cook them to death, but we are going to cook them To this, I'm going to add in some Worcestershire sauce. I think I did about a tablespoon, maybe a little over, because sometimes I get heavy-handed, you know. And then I added in that Kinder seasoning, and this one is salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I love that seasoning because that is my go-to seasoning blend for pretty much everything under the sun. Salt, pepper, and garlic powder. It makes everything good, right? But I'm going to add in those seasonings, and then I'm just going to saute those mushrooms for a few minutes. While they are doing their thing, you can see I pulled out another skillet over there in the back. I put a little bit of olive oil in there, and then I had these pre-made hamburger patties in my freezer. I picked them up on sale somewhere, I don't even remember where, but this was just the perfect way to use them. I'm going to put them in that skillet, and I seasoned them with that same salt, pepper, garlic powder blend by Kinder's. That's all I put on them. And then I just put them in there and I let them cook and do their thing. Didn't take very long, probably about 8 minutes in total. They were not very thick. They were fine for this application, but for some reason I always find if I make the homemade patties by hand, they seem to taste so much better, but that's okay. I was using up stuff I had on hand. Anyway, those mushrooms are still cooking, and as you can see, I seasoned those patties. They're doing their thing. I'm going to add in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of flour to the mushrooms. I did toss in a little bit extra oil because I felt like the pan was a little bit dry. I'm going to stir all of that around and kind of let that flour taste start to cook out just a little bit. Flour has a very distinct taste, and you really want to let that cook for a minute. I don't have any beef stock, so I went ahead and tossed in that powdered beef bouillon base, and then I added in a little bit of garlic and onion powder to this, and then to that I added in probably about 1.5 cups of water. This is something I have been making for years and years and years. It's not anything I ever saw a written recipe for, so I'm trying to give the best measurements that I can, but I don't actually measure when I cook this. But I would say about 1.5 cups of water in that skillet, and we're just going to let this simmer and do its thing and thicken and get nice and beautiful. And that does take probably about 10 minutes, but it'll be a nice, wonderful, flavorful gravy. It's like a cross between an onion gravy and a mushroom gravy. It's really nice, and that is what we're going to top these steaks with. But there is one more step. So as you can see, those hamburger patties are nice and browned on one side. I am letting them brown on the other side. And then we're going to take them out of the pan and put them in a baking dish. I feel like there is an added bit of flavor if we kind of like simmer the hamburger steaks in the gravy. It does something really nice. They have a ton of additional flavor. It's really, really lovely. So I always do that. And you don't have to do it. You could always just simmer them on the stovetop if you wanted to. But for some reason, I feel like baking them in the stove or in the oven, it adds something extra. So I put them all in that baking dish, and then I'm going to carefully top only 3 of them with mushrooms because my husband does not like mushrooms. So I'll top 3 of them with mushrooms, 1 for me, 1 for my oldest son, and 1 for him to have for lunch the next day. And then I will pour that beautiful, thick, delicious gravy over the top of all 3 of those. And then I'm going to pop them in the oven and let them bake. I've got those potatoes going in the oven, so it's 400 degrees. If I didn't have them in there, I would just do it at 350 for like half an hour. But the potatoes are in there, so I'm going to do it at 400 for about 20 to 25 minutes. And as you can see, those potatoes are beautiful and crispy. The hamburger steaks were so full of flavor and delicious. Those mushrooms are amazing. And I just had some cream spinach in the freezer that I served on the side, and it was so, so good. Okay, so here was, I think, my husband and my oldest son's favorite meal of the week, fried chicken. I don't fry chicken very often just because it's really messy and it's just a lot of work, so I don't. But I hadn't made it in a while, and I know how much they love it, so I decided to make some fried chicken. I'm using chicken thighs because, 1, that's what I had, and 2, they stay nice and juicy when you fry them. You don't have to worry about them drying out like a chicken breast would. So I'm going to start off by trimming all the extra fat off of these. Sometimes I get chicken thighs and they're beautifully trimmed. Sometimes I get chicken thighs like this where I have to spend a lot of time taking off a lot of extra fat. This is one of those days. So I took all that extra fat off, and it was a lot. And then I'm popping them in a zip top bag. So this is a step that I do, and I've seen other people do it. Not everyone does it though, and I guess you don't really have to. I feel like it imparts a lot of flavor into the chicken. And I feel like it gives you a much better product in the end. Your chicken's going to be juicier. It's going to be more flavorful. It's really just a better batch of fried chicken if you do this one step. So I pour some buttermilk in that zip top bag with the chicken, and then I like a little bit of spice, so you're going to see me add a pretty generous amount of Frank's Red Hot sauce to that. If you don't want any kind of spice, you don't have to. If you want more, go for it. Add some hotter hot sauce, add more hot sauce, whatever you really like is fine. But I also add in Worcestershire sauce, and I really recommend that. I put in probably about a tablespoon for this whole bag of chicken, but it brings a really nice flavor. I would not skip that step at all. I definitely recommend it. But anyway, I did this in the morning so that my chicken could soak for probably about, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. If you don't have that kind of time, if you could just get 1 hour in soaking, that's great. But the longer, the better. But I'm just going to pop it in the fridge and let it chill until I am ready to work with it. Now, on this particular day, I did have to get dinner ready early. It was like a late lunch kind of thing. My son had a bunch of stuff going on at night, and I wanted to make sure he had a nice meal because he was not going to be home until very, very late. So I started this early in the morning so that I could serve it as a very late lunch. Anyway, there you go. I've got the chicken all nice in there, and I'm just going to let it rest and wait for me. All right, so here is how I batter my chicken. You don't have to do this. You could simply just dip it in flour and go, but I like a nice, thick, crispy batter. So my first plate, I have put out about a cup of flour, and I added in some paprika, and then I'm going to season it up with garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. And that's really all I use as far as the flour goes. I know that some people put a bunch of herbs and stuff in there. I don't. You can if you want to, but I find that this works just fine. I'm going to mix all that together, and then realize I forgot to add in cornstarch, so I'm going to grab that cornstarch and toss in probably about a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. I've heard that this helps make it extra crispy. I've heard that it helps make a better batter. I'm not 100% sold that it does, but it certainly doesn't hurt it. So I go ahead and add it every time I make fried chicken now. Maybe it doesn't do anything, I don't know, but like I said, it doesn't hurt. So I do that. If you don't have it, though, don't worry about it, because like I said, I'm not 100% certain it does anything. So for my last battering station, I do use breadcrumbs. I'm just using regular. Panko's great and all, but I feel like it's a little over the top. It's way too much crunch, so I just stick with regular breadcrumbs. And then here is my wet portion of the station. I've got 2 eggs that I am scrambling there, and you want to really, really scramble them well. To it, I'm adding a couple of tablespoons of buttermilk, and then I'm going to add in some more Worcestershire sauce and some more hot sauce, just echoing that buttermilk that the chicken is sitting in. The egg is necessary. I needed to have a separate place to use the egg instead of just using the buttermilk that it's already sitting in. So don't skip this step. Anyway, I took the chicken out of the bag and I coated it really nicely in that flour mixture. Then I dunked it in the egg mixture. Then I dunked it in the breadcrumb mixture. And then I set it on a plate and I let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. You really want to let the chicken rest. It helps the coating adhere a lot better to it. If you just were to dump it straight into the oil, you're going to find a lot of your coating doesn't stick as well. This really makes a difference when you're making fried chicken. So do give it time to rest. Let it sit, let it all kind of stick together and do its thing. It's really, really important. So while I'm doing this, I do have some oil heating on the stovetop over a medium heat, and it's just going to be over there waiting for me so that as soon as I'm done coating all this chicken, I can just, get right to it when I'm ready to go. And it did take me probably about 10 minutes to coat all of these pieces of chicken because I do make sure I get in all the nooks and crannies. I tap off the excess flour, all that kind of stuff. So it does take a little bit of time. There's my oil, and I'm just going to pop the chicken in and I'm going to let it fry. I think I have maybe an inch of oil in there. I'm not deep frying. I just want to make sure that the oil comes at least halfway up the chicken, if not more, and it did, so it was perfect. And then I just let this go for a while and do its thing. It doesn't take very long. I think I let it fry for about 4 to 5 minutes on both sides, and it got beautiful golden brown, delicious. This was really good fried chicken. And we had 6 pieces in total. My little ones don't like fried chicken, so it was just for myself, my oldest, and my husband. So we had 1 piece of chicken on the first night, so we had 3 pieces left over, and I just used those to make some chicken sandwiches because I had some extra buns in my pantry. So good. Add a little extra hot sauce if you're looking for one of those spicy chicken sandwiches. And I just put some lettuce and tomato and pickles on it. You could add some cheese if you want to. Ranch dressing, mayonnaise, it's up to you. But this was definitely a winner just because I cooked 1 night and we had dinner for 2 nights. And I love when that happens just because it saves me a lot of time and a lot of trouble in the kitchen. So there's my fried chicken. I hope you guys try it at home. Let me know what you think. All right, so here's something I don't make all the time, but my husband really enjoys it, and I felt like it was the perfect side for fried chicken. I decided to make some deviled eggs. So I just boiled a couple of eggs on the stovetop, and then I took the yolks out, mashed them all together. I've got, I think it's 4 eggs over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yep, 4 eggs. So I put in about 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise and about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Then I tossed in a spoonful of dill pickle relish and a spoonful of sweet pickled relish. Then I tossed in some onion powder. I like to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this, and then I just kind of mash it all up. And that's the filling. It's got a lot of flavor. I know that a lot of people don't put the pickles in there. I always grew up eating it that way, so that's just what I do. And I think that Dijon mustard adds a little extra something special to these, so I really recommend it. Anyway, I just didn't feel fancy, so I took a knife and just kind of filled them with that. Now, if I was taking this to like a potluck or something, I would totally stick it in a zip top bag, cut the corner off, and squeeze it in the eggs all pretty, but that was not how I was feeling on this night. Like I said, it was like a late lunch kind of thing, and I was just trying to get everything together and ready to go before my son had to leave. So I just filled them with a knife, and you know what? They tasted amazing. Everybody enjoyed them. They didn't last long. So this was definitely a hit. If you guys do something different or have any recommendations for deviled eggs, let me know down in the comments below. I have seen a lot of different recipes out there. I'm always afraid to try new things when it comes to eggs. But if you guys have something you recommend, tell me about it. I would love to hear it. So this last one is not a dinner, it's a snack or a dessert, however you want to look at it. I took this to a little family get together for Christmas, and it's really, really good. So I thought I'd share it with you guys because it's super simple. This is my recipe for it's supposed to be spiced pecans. I use walnuts, so we're going to say spiced walnuts. Super, super simple. I will link the recipe down below. All I did was take 2 egg whites and I whipped them until they were nice and foamy. We're not looking for meringue here, but I did want a lot of good foam there. So I whipped them pretty hardcore for about 2 minutes, maybe 3. And then in a separate bowl, I combined 1 cup of sugar with some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and some cloves. I forget what the recipe called for, but I can guarantee you I was probably heavy-handed with it because that's just how I roll. And I did definitely want these to have a lot of flavor. These were so, so good. Anyway, once you mix your sugar and spices together, go ahead, set that to the side, dump your nuts in with your 2 egg whites and get them all nice and coated in that foamy egg white goodness. Once that is done, add your sugar and spice in, toss everything around so everybody is coated in deliciousness, then put it in your slow cooker. And I did mine for almost 3 hours on high. And I just went over and I stirred them about every 15 minutes or so just to keep them from sticking together. Then once that time is up, go ahead and just put them out on a parchment lined cookie sheet and just let them set for about an hour, room temperature. I just put mine in the oven so they'd be out of the way, but I didn't turn it on. And then I put them in a container and they were good to go. These are so full of flavor. You know, they taste like the holidays. They taste like Thanksgiving. They taste like Christmas. They're really warm and inviting and delicious. And they're just one of those great things to have out at like a potluck or something. Put them in a bowl. People can just come by and grab a handful and snack on them here and there. They're sweet and they have a really warm touch to them with those really great warm fall spices. I'm sure there's a lot of other spice combinations you could use here. The first time I ever made these, this is the spice combination that I used, and I was just doing it all over again because my family loved them so much. And like I said, I did take them to a family get together. It was potluck style, and everybody there said they were really, really good. So maybe you guys will give these a try. They're really tasty, and there is the finished product. Super delicious. So, so yummy. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week's What's for Dinner. I had a couple of meals, I had a couple of side dishes, and I had a little tasty treat at the end. I hope you guys liked it. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'll have the recipes down below in the description box, as always, and I will see you guys really soon with another video. Have a great week, guys. Bye.